So when we were pulling this back into our lab and doing all these evaluations, what were we basing our recommendations on? What were we considering, and what should you have as a list of things to consider as you're doing this migration? So first, where are you at in your hardware life cycle, right? If your hardware is going to be end of life in 11 months, but your VMware runs out in 3, you're in a hard spot right now, because do you buy new hardware and just put it on the new virtualization platform that's going to save you money? Do you just do a temporary renewal on VMware, bite the bullet for a year, and then when you do your hardware, you'll replace it? That's going to come down to the numbers. What you probably don't want to do is you may not want to migrate on the same hardware, because then you're going to pay for that project twice. So if you're going to migrate, say, to Hyper-V off VMware on that same hardware that only has a year left in its life, it may not make sense finance-wise to then have to flip around and do a hardware replacement a year later. You may as well just bundle those costs together. So we'd have to talk about pricing on that and how big the project would be to do the flip. If you're talking one server, it's probably really short. Yeah, you might save some money by doing that. But if we're talking a whole data center, 10, 15 hosts, you're probably going to have to bite it for a year in order to save money. But let's have that discussion. The other one you're going to want to look at is your host and CPU count. That's going to determine your licensing cost for not just VMware, but some of the replacement alternatives. For instance, Windows Server, that's how they're licensed out, is by physical core, especially once you flip over to Hyper-V. Proxmox is priced per socket for their licensing. So there's a few different considerations you have to make there. Virtual machine OS and size generally won't matter, but depending on, if you're entirely Windows based and you already have all of your cores licensed for your Windows Server environment, it might make a lot more sense to go Hyper-V than any of the other alternatives. Your storage configuration would come into play. This also ties hand in hand with your backup solution support. So depending on your storage configuration, what your backup solution supports from what you're going to move to, that may drive some determination as to what you might want to go with. There's also the required features that may come with the new product versus VMware. Like, what are you using in VMware? What's that equivalent in whatever product you're going to be moving to? We want to have all that lined up. It's not even, nothing is going to be a straight one-to-one, especially in terms of verbiage. They're going to have very different verbiage when you go and you slide over to a new hypervisor product. They don't call things vSwitches, or, they don't have the same terminology necessarily in their backend. One that we're tracking and that we're trying to keep everyone on top of is the virtual appliance from the vendor, what they support. So for instance, right now, for Cisco Call Manager and the Cisco Unified Communications, they currently, and they have plans to move off of this, but right now, this minute, they only support VMware. So you have to put those virtualized appliances on VMware to be able to call their technical support to get supported. So you're going to have to make that consideration. Do we have a machine I could slide off and only pay VMware on one physical host or 2 physical hosts to handle that? Could I slide off UC? What are the alternatives there? You're going to want to make sure you're checking with any virtual appliances you have. What are your vendors going to support, and what hypervisor will their TAC support when you call in? And then also, what have your IT staff been trained on? What's their experience with certain platforms? Those are all important considerations.